Hello, everyone, and welcome to our first accessibility workshop with Silver Circles. We are happy to have you all here, and Michelle and I are even happier to have aboard one of our Silver Circles volunteers who have graciously dedicated her time to wanting to present and inform us of accessibility options for our clients at Searching Care. So this workshop will be focused mainly on Apple products such as iPhones and iPads. So they're actually going to have a post-survey questionnaire. So if you think there's other devices or any types of tech that you think would be beneficial for folks that are both hearing or either or hearing or visually impaired, please let us know in that post-workshop survey. We will be posting that at some point. But so let's begin. So I want to introduce you all to our gracious volunteer, once again, Miranda, who will be presenting for us for this workshop. So I will add her to the spotlight, and yeah, here we go. Welcome, Miranda.
Thank you, Jacob. And hello, everyone. It's so exciting to be here today. I'm happy that this came up because this is actually not necessarily where our initial conversation with Michelle was going, but I offered this because I think inclusion in design and accessibility design is so important. As Jacob mentioned, I am a volunteer. In my day job, I work at Microsoft. I do not work in the inclusion space, but I am using some of their material here to kind of set the stage. So before we begin in terms of kind of what Apple looks like and what the iOS system changes, we will get very hands-on, but I want to level set with just inclusion from a design perspective so that as we talk about accessibility, as we talk about disability, we have the context in which some of these features can really help our clients, not only those who are disabled and maybe go by disability first or people first language of a person without seeing or with hear loss, or someone who is deaf, a blind person or deaf person, blind person, but also someone who just might need it. And hopefully something here today you personally can take away. So let me start sharing and we can jump in. So we have that, perfect. If you have any questions during this, please put them in the chat. I can't see the chat right now, but Jacob will be monitoring it and he'll flag any questions, so keep them coming. After the session, I will give you this deck as well as 2 links. One of the links will be to the Inclusive Microsoft Design webpage, which has this incredible document, which I got these 3 images from, but also just some language around how designers think about these features. Really cool if you're interested. If not, here are the 3 that I think are really important. So first, as we talk about disability within design, and I think just generally, it can sometimes come off with a negative connotation. Someone being disabled or having a disability can possibly societally feel that someone is less than or not a full person. But as we talk about disability in design, it is not necessarily around a personal health condition, but rather a mismatch of human interactions. There's something that isn't working for us in what we have. It's not necessarily exactly fit, or there can be something better. You're looking to just see a little detail a little bit more in the case of our presentation. It's not necessarily to say someone has a personal trait that's wrong about them or that they're not normal. There's nothing that's normal in this world, so we're gonna put that kind of language aside. What I love about this design network and this design book around inclusion is not only that talking about disability as a permanent sense. So if someone is permanently disabled, they cannot use their vision, touch, hearing, whatever at all. But they talk about these 2 other types of disabilities. One is temporary. So in the case of seeing, someone who is permanently disabled might be blind, but that temporary disability might be cataracts. It might be you went to your eye doctor, you got your eyes dilated, or just something, maybe you got LASIK. Temporarily you can't see or you can't see well. So in the case of the accessibility features that we go through, this could be useful on a temporary basis. But then there's also the situational. So I'd love to think about audiobooks. Originally, they were created for those who are blind. And now on our drives and our walks and our commutes, we listen to them. But yeah, so this is called the persona spectrum, something to think about just as you talk about disability and as you interact with others who maybe need that help that you're not necessarily sure about how to categorize it or what to say. There's no shame around kind of accessibility and these features that we're talking about. If anything, we just are trying to broaden technology for everybody to use, which big thing I can get behind. Like I said, this is 3 pages of like 70. So when I send it the link, highly, highly recommend kind of browsing through it. Very easy to read and very insightful. But for today's session, I know everyone's excited to get into it. So if you have an iPhone or an iPad with you, I highly encourage actually going through this together. I know on my screen, it might not be as easy to walk. So I have these screenshots here, as well as the second link that I will send in addition to this, this deck. So Apple's website has a variety of accessibility features with vision is what we'll talk about today, but also mobility, hearing, and cognitive functions. Now, these can help in a variety of ways, but most of them you'll see are kind of within these 2 panes. The first, display and brightness, and second, that accessibility feature. So I'm going to pause here. Any questions? Is everybody here on the settings page? No questions? Okay, so we're on the settings page. We're going to dive right in to display and brightness. Now on the display and brightness, you'll see the light and dark on top. I scroll down in this first image so that I can see at the bottom that there's a bold text swivel. So it's off right now on this left side, but there's also text size. We're first going to just play with bold text to see what that looks like on your phone. Sometimes, yes, the bigger text is what we need, but also we need just bolder text. We can't necessarily see it, or it just makes it a lot easier to digest a line of words. So I'm going to pause there. Everyone solid with that? Bolding, pretty easy so far? Great. The second is right above bold text, that swivel, there's text size. Now, when you enter in this, it will dynamically change all of the reading. So think about apps like Notes, apps like Outlook, apps like, I want to say Safari, but there's also another one that I will follow up with. But generally, all of the settings, all of the Apple-based products will be touched on by this. I believe in the iOS 15 features, the features will absolutely extend beyond just the Apple, but maybe in some of those older iOSs, some of the older phones, this is kind of what we'll see maybe limited. And that can happen. So I have 3 other different ways to zoom in on different features below, but this is kind of a newer feature, mostly Apple, mostly settings based. Is everyone readjusting? I know when I saw this, I went all the way to the top, back through all of my like Outlooks, my Gmail, my Instagram, and then I went all the way low because I was like, what does that look like? And I felt like being on iPad. It was so crazy. I think that middle that we get as a standard, and at least for me, was pretty good. Okay. I know I'm kind of going fast, and it seems like, I know for me, it seems like obvious. Like, this is okay. Now I just know where it is. Easy, great. But I want to open it up to some questions before we get into Zoom controller and some of the more not as obvious options. Carly, go ahead.
Hi, so I was wondering, you mentioned quickly that the text size will change will apply to all Apple apps, I think you were saying,
Yes.
but sometimes it won't transfer to does it go throughout the entire phone or how does that work?
Yeah, so when you change it, like your home screen will be larger, your Apple apps will be larger. And I think in iOS 15, like my Gmail will also change. Essentially, how the iOS works and how some like systems work. So like you can also change your text size on like Windows 11. It just makes everything bigger from a pixel perspective. So it's just bringing everything into kind of a different display code, if that makes sense. Sometimes it doesn't work with certain apps that don't like allow that display code to work. So think about I would say like older models, like older iPads. Some older iPads don't even have iPad apps. It's just like the old app that they like stretch out. Similar kind of concept of how it works from like a very my level of technology explanation. So I hope that helps.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
also, Miranda,
Okay.
we have a question here, or possibly like a little suggestion that maybe we might want to explain what an iOS actually is for some of our participants here.
Yes, absolutely. So iOS is the Apple software name. I don't know what it stands for, but I want to say OS stands for operating system. I'll figure out that I afterwards.
Individual operating system? Yeah, I don't know. That was my guess.
I like the guess. That if you're right, I'll send you an extra star or something, some extra kudos.
So Joseph is saying internal operating system.
Ooh.
I don't know.
So many intuitive operating system. Honestly, your guesses are as good as mine, but the way that a computer works, it has the starting code to get the computer on, and then the operating system is essentially how the computer works with the other apps, with the other functionalities of what is being asked. So think of the iPhone as a computer and the iOS as the kind of the code behind it so that the computer can work. We can use it on our interface or graphic user interface pretty easily. And the iOS is just all of the settings that we can kind of decide, we can switch to make it so that not only we can see better, we can look at everything better, but that we also have a better experience. If anything I say doesn't make sense, please ask the question again or rephrase it. I'm happy to kind of go about this in multiple directions and explain it in the ways that I understand it and also the ways that I've seen some different examples. I like examples, so we can always go through a nice example. Okay. No more questions. We're gonna, Michelle?
Oh, Michelle, yeah.
And just if it also helps you to put the iOS in context. So just like with how you have different versions of Windows, you will have different versions of your operating software. So and that's just to bear in mind that there are certain features that are available. For example, if it helps you to think of there are things that remember Windows XP, and remember how everyone had multiple heart attacks with when they got rid of XP, because there were things in XP that you could do that you couldn't do it. I think it was like Windows ME, and then there was whatever other iterations that came after that. So the iOS, and that's important because different iOS versions will have different features, and there's some things that are not compatible with them. For example, if you have a device, I have an iPhone 6, I can install I'm running iOS 13. I have an iPad mini that does not have enough memory to upgrade to iOS 13. So on that iPad mini, there are apps that I will never be able to download. There are things I will never be able to do because the operating software can't communicate with an app or any other software that can only communicate with a higher iOS. Does that make sense? The same way that, you know, with your Windows computer or any other computer, you have to constantly upgrade your drivers because it can't communicate, you know, Windows 6, Windows 95 can't communicate with drivers from you know, Windows 10. So it's that kind of thing. And that's why the operating software and the version matter when it comes to the device you're using. Because if the device is too old, you can't upgrade. There's only so far that you can upgrade the iOS. And depending on the iOS, that will give you the accessibility features and also features to download different apps. Okay, back on mute.
No, this is a great conversation. I am very excited. And I just want to take a moment to actually show you guys how to identify where the iOS is. So in your settings, there's a general icon that looks like a gear, just like the settings. When you click About, you will see software version. And clicking on the software version, it'll expand, but that essentially is the iOS number. So for example, Michelle, if you're saying yours is 13, when you're going in that, you'll see 13.2, 13.1. For 15, it'll look like 15.3. And the 0.3s are those updates that will come, but essentially that 15 or that 13 or that 11 number will tell you at what point of the iOS will these features be. What is that iOS number? And yeah, again, that's general, about, and then you can also find a bunch of other things there, which I don't know if anyone's curious, but like how many photos you have, how many videos you have, everything about your phone, it's right there. And I always, when I start, I always try to look at that first to understand, okay, what are we working with? Or before like problem solving any computer, just to understand, okay, are we working with this operating system, or are we going to go even further back? Is there known issues with this operating system? But generally, you can find that in like the About section of any tablet or device. Okay, now we have some fun, exciting, more Zoom options that we'll dive into, and keep the questions coming, especially if there's something that you're like, this is 3 steps ahead, I want to pull back, like this is interesting, but like big question here. I would love to help. And also the other coaches on the call, please jump in too.
Also, I just wanted to add that I did add a photo of what it would look like for folks if they are trying to find their iOS version. So I put it in the chat, just letting everyone know.
Amazing. Thank you, Jacob. Okay. So like I mentioned, with certain iOSs, the feature may not go to all of the apps. And I want to specifically talk through Safari because I think Safari has a lot of interesting features that if you were a regular user like myself, you probably didn't notice until you were looking for it. So if you go into your Safari app, I have the search bar on the bottom. Sometimes it's on the top, but in any case, on the very, very left, you'll see this small a and larger a. Now in the accessibility world, when you see that, whether it be on a Kindle, a Samsung, you see it as a, just like on Windows or on the Mac computer, this generally will mean text sizing. So clicking on that, the variety of what you can do with iOS 15 includes translating, you can change the size, you can request a desktop website. So say that, I don't know if you guys have seen certain websites that obviously aren't meant for apps, they're kind of jumbled all over, or maybe you prefer just seeing, like I have like a loan provider that has a login and password up in the right-hand corner. I prefer seeing that. That website view will essentially show you what that looks like or what it could look like on your computer, on your phone. Now that can be really helpful, especially if you use this with Zoom and you're like, okay, I want to go into the upper right-hand corner, put my login and password in the way that I would like to. This also has, and mine is grayed out, so in these dark black, that is something I can use. These light grays, I can't use in this instance, but when you're reading an article or your client is reading an article or something that has a lot of words, what they can do is actually use this show reader aspect where it will take out the ads, pictures, and just give the text of what that article looks like. Now, there are different features that I'm not going over today around hearing that will allow text to be read to you. So like I mentioned in that audiobook, not being able to see temporarily, I'm really focused on Zoom today for a variety of reasons, but there is an option to kind of combine some of these accessibility features to help you see better, to help you read in the way that you want, especially with so many visuals out there. I'm gonna pause there. Does everyone have the opportunity to try it? Did they translate it into their favorite language or change the Zoom size?
I honestly just want to mention that show reader thing. It's a really, it sounds like a really great feature. I did not know that at all. Just wanted to add that.
Super helpful when you're reading a document and you are just like not trying to see any of the cached apps or the ads from all of your Amazon searches. I know for me, it really helps curb shopping impulses.
Definitely.
Oh, wow, no kidding. And there's an option that you can, I guess you have to set it. So I assume you have to set these settings for each website, or is it that once you set this, you're setting it for Safari and for your web searches?
That's a great question. So this is when you're on the website. Now, I haven't tried like translating specifically, but I know the reader, that will only happen if you ask, if you you touch into this. Oh, this is so cool. But let me try it in real time. Okay, I'm on Wordle, which is not a good test. Let's see.
Okay.
For the New York Times. But I'm pretty sure I have the app for all of these.
Let's see.
So if I move from, oh, it actually looks like, so what it looks like once you make this change in the same browser, as long as you don't close out of it, it does look like it will move with you. So thank you, Michelle, for actually bringing that up because I did not try it. And it looks like, so I went and did like a cooking recipe and the picture of the apple pie is still there, but the text is formatted so it's fully on the screen. This doesn't help. And it's also in Spanish. So I changed the language, I changed the reader type. And it's, at least from the language perspective, it's moving all of it through the session or through the browser. Now, if I close out of that browser though and open a new one, it does look like it goes back to the original settings and the original language. And I think that's partly because not everything can have a reader. So like I mentioned here that we're seeing, it doesn't have a reader, but also with the translation, if you wanted to change your language, that is an availability. This is more like, oh, I'm on a site that's kind of a different language. It'll change, or maybe the site itself is coded to be really tiny or really big, and you want to change the zooming features of that specific site. So this is not like a all-around feature, but within the browser, you're going to see the changes continue on.
All right, this is awesome.
Yeah.
And just to let everyone else know, because I was just doing it right now with one of our iPads, I was trying to figure out how to actually access it. If you do press that lowercase a and uppercase a on the bottom of the screen or on the upper part of your screen, that's how you get the accessibility option. I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah, and I am running. I have iOS 13, and on mine, I don't have all of those. Oh, well, just to say that I don't have all of those options available. But if you click on website settings, everything is in there. Like, so it looks like if you're using an older version and you don't see everything at once, you just need to, it's there. You just have to hunt for it a little bit.
So they're sneaky about where they're putting it with these different iOSs.
Oh.
Also, this is my cat. He
Oh,
hi. This is his time of day where he likes to remind me to take a break and play with him.
Okay.
But yeah, no, thank you for providing that. And anyone else who has a different iOS that they're testing this on or seeing something used in a different way, I would love to kind of hear what that looks like, if you're willing to share.
All right. Fantastic.
Well, I just wanted to let you know that Millie mentioned that she doesn't have an Apple product, but she was checking her Samsung phone and just checking out the accessibility options there, and she wouldn't have known about it without this. So she said, thank you for that.
Woohoo! I'm so excited, Millie. And now you can do the next session on Samsung. Just kidding, I'm not going to offer that. But I do want to learn about that. So maybe we can connect afterwards. Okay, so we have, spent our time in that Zoom or in that, let me go back, the display and brightness setting up here. Now we're going to go down to the accessibility setting. From a PowerPoint note, I probably should have added a second side of this, but go back into settings, click accessibility, and we'll start to kind of look at what we have. Now, you'll see again that there's display and text size here. I don't know necessarily the difference. I'm going to be honest. If someone has familiarity with that, love to know. It does look like they offer bold text, button shapes, larger text, some reduced transparency. I still have to play with that myself, but kind of where I want to offer some additional features today are around zoom and touch, mostly because zoom and touch are two that I, after seeing them, am using myself in terms of when I post Instagrams, when I look on Facebook for things, when I'm reading. For touch, I think that one is just something that everyone can take away. So first we'll dive in to the zoom feature. So go ahead and click zoom. Oh, not that way. Now there's kind of a couple things here. So kind of from the top down, there's on this very left one, there's the zoom on and off button. So if you click this, which you're more than welcome to, I did this at first, it'll just straight up zoom in and you won't be able to read anything. So before doing that, I highly encourage reading the gray text below just to understand how to operate the zoom. Now, double tapping with 3 fingers, so all 3 fingers lightly tapping twice, will bring the zoom to any part of the screen that you would like. Dragging 3 fingers around the screen will help you move when you're in that zoom feature. And then double tapping the 3 fingers to change the zoom, so essentially getting back out to a non-zoom feature. So double tap to go in, double tap to go out, and 3 fingers to move around will help you navigate. Personally, when I did this, I knew I needed help in just a different way. And that's where the Zoom controller comes in. So this on the Zoom feature, there's follow focus, smart typing, keyboard shortcuts, and then Zoom controller. Clicking Zoom controller and clicking to make sure that it shows the controller will show you actually this little button that you can see right here, the gray with the different arrows. And you can use that to tap to get in and out, or you can move it around kind of like a mouse. So it provides just a different way to move. So before you go zooming in and being stuck in an over-zoomed space, this can give you a little bit of a way out. And you can also see you can customize the controller action. So that single tap, that double tap that I mentioned that zooms in and out, that's the standard. But if you just want to do 1 tap or you want to do triple taps, you can decide what that looks like. But you can also change it completely to speak on touch or do nothing. So there's a couple different options that within the Zoom feature you can try. Now, you also have at this very end, so once you show controller and you turn on Zoom, You can also see the maximum zoom level. So if you really want to see everything that's there, crank it up. 5 essentially brings it to like a fourth of the site. But you can also go a little bit less. Maybe you don't need to see everything as much, but this essentially, it's not the hold and pull away to zoom in, but rather just a tap. So it's a little bit more, what we like to say, like double clicking, like you're double clicking on different spaces to go in and then to come out. Everyone have an opportunity to play with this, see what you see, go into an app and play with it. I, again, like love to do this on Instagram. I love to go through pictures just to see kind of what are those details. Maybe I'm creepy. But this also can be really helpful for different settings on your like phone when you're looking at different recipes, different details, you yourself, or maybe just need a quick zoom on something and you don't want to fully change everything. But yeah, so once you have this, give me the thumbs up, feel free.
I just want to mention that the Zoom controller is a game changer because you can have it if you just double tap those little 4 arrows. It will actually remove the zoom feature. At least as I'm doing it right now. So, and it will stay on the screen wherever you go. So you can just double tap it again, and that zoom feature will reappear. So it's so helpful, and I did not know about that at all. So
yeah,
that's great.
Especially if you're trying it out for the first time and you're like not sure of it, sometimes it helps just to have a safety button or something that you're like, this is where I zoom, this is where I don't zoom.
Definitely.
Okay, awesome. Alrighty. Does anyone want extra time playing with this? Feeling good? No, we can move on. Okay. I have one more feature because I thought there would be a little more convo or questions, but that's okay. We can open it up to kind of a general Q&A. I can show you the websites kind of after we go through this next one. So my favorite, the one that I think everyone can do. So I'm hyping it up because I do think that if you have an iPhone or if you have a Samsung, in the case of Millie, this might be something worth looking into. So within accessibility, there is a feature called assistive touch. So I want to make sure, sometimes it's just touch, but when you go into it here, it's assistive touch. Now, there are quite a few things you can do. So in this left screenshot at the very top, you want to click on assistive touch that says off to get this customized menu on the left. Now, it's not on right now, which is important because if you don't put it on, what you have currently as the default settings will stay. You can customize this all you want. I know myself, I spent about 20 minutes customizing this and then just double tapping, waiting for my camera to appear for me to kind of have I need to turn it on moment. So make sure you do that. But as you can see, as you touch the different actions, there's a variety of things that you can customize with your different touches. Now, as I mentioned, camera was one of them, but you can go to the home screen, you can mute, you can restart, you can get Siri to pop up. So I know for me, sometimes Siri doesn't like to say like, hey back. I'll say hi Siri about 12 times. When I've taught some of my clients who are new to Siri, Siri is also pretty temperamental. Sometimes it takes some time to get used to. When I hold down my button, I think in the regular default settings, Siri will come up, or if I hold like the side of my phone, it'll come up. But with this, if I just want to have a one tap Siri, let's talk moment, I can set it up here. You can also do volume up, volume down. You go to analytics. So if you're trying to change as much of time or if you're trying to reduce the amount of time you are spending on your phone and you like to look at that, that can be your touch. There's also these gestures. So once you go through the single tap, double tap, long press, there's gestures that you can save. I haven't played with all of this, but essentially the shake of your phone, movement, you can set what that means for you and your phone. The iPhone especially has a lot of accessibility features for those who are blind, who can use assistive or like visual braille. They can use the phone, they can have a different keyboard, and those gestures are also a part of it. The pointer devices are also pretty cool. I think here the assistive touch custom actions are worth spending like 25 minutes playing with, trying, and yeah, just like I mentioned, taking the time to make sure that the assistive touch button on this top left is on will enact everything you have kind of below. So if you do make any changes, if you change the mouse key or the devices, you need to make sure it is on. Okay, how are we feeling?
This is
Underwhelmed,
great.
overwhelmed, somewhere in the middle? Whelmed?
I'm feeling, at least I'm feeling whelmed, considering there are like so many options, especially for that double tap. And I think it will help our clients out so much if we can set like a triple tap to go to the home, like to a specific page that they always go to, or something like that, you know? So it's great the fact that that's an option for them. So that's wonderful. My goodness.
I'm feeling not I'm whelmed as well, but there's a lot of interesting features in accessibility. So I think we're gonna have to like try some of this stuff out, which that's incredible, you know, so that we know what to recommend and what to, you know, and even just to tell them, like you mentioned, by trying it out, you can tell them even what to expect with, you know, how it's going to actually react in real time. This is awesome.
For sure.
Yeah, the
And
more you try it out, the more that like you build your confidence with it. Like I said, there's so much I still don't know, but what's really, really interesting is that there's pretty explanatory guides. So if you have something, you're like, what if I can do this? There might be something out there, and playing with it, trying it, and encouraging your clients to try it and not fail, but like go through the learning curve that is very uncomfortable in a way that's like, you know what, I'm trying something new. If it doesn't work or if it gets stuck, at least you know the way to turn it off or get out of that Zoom. Yeah. Jacob, you wanted to say something?
No, I was just gonna say, I from all the options, I still think that Zoom controller itself is just gonna be, it's a game changer in my opinion. Just like the ease of access for it for clients, I can see it helping out so much. So thank you once again for just introducing us to that.
That was your one thing. There we go. We all have one thing that we can take, and hopefully there's something that like after this you're like, wow, like this actually started a journey with my client. And if not, if nothing here is actually something that is going, at least we'll have the accessibility deck. And let me see. Sorry, this is my scary team. Let me bring to you guys to the two websites that I've been using to help me. So in the Apple accessibility /vision, they offer a bunch of these. They're not screenshots per se, but they do provide you, so let's go to text size. They provide you some interesting, like, oh, can you do this on your Apple Watch? Can you do an iPod Touch? And then they give you the details in text versus the visual. So they still offer the step-by-step approach. It's just in text, and they give you more details than I do for sure. And then, so yeah, this is a link I will send you guys because this is awesome. Like I covered 5 out of the 12 because I was like, I would be overwhelmed if I was doing all 12. But now I know we like to learn here. We want to do it all. And then the design for inclusion toolkit. Super cool website. And it just talks about the methodology from a design perspective. And even, I don't know about anyone else, but I feel like it helped me just think about and talk about accessibility in a totally different way and be more comfortable with asking, like, what can be done better? How can this design or this feature really meet the need of a customer? Because although these are different features, you should think of them as toolkits, not necessarily things that someone must have. If someone doesn't have a problem zooming, no need to show them this, or if they only have a problem specifically zooming on one thing or changing their text in one way, these are just the tools to meet the need. This design kit really talks about what those needs could be, how to approach them, just different ways to think about it. So I will stop sharing. I am here to ask or to answer and have a dialogue for the next 15 minutes. So if there are more questions, let's start chatting. And if not, I will send everything to Michelle and Jacob so that they can disseminate to everyone else.
Okay, let's see here. Again, if anyone wants to unmute themselves to ask it, you don't have to just type it in, if anything, just let me know. But yeah, I mean,
Sorry.
Go for it.
In your experience, have you worked with anybody where these have worked? Like, have you found anything to be helpful toward someone with a certain disability, or have you done any of that work yet, or just want to see your?
Yeah, so I had one client who was new to an iPhone. Her granddaughter got it for her, and she was just like, I'm from the Samsung world. I have no idea what's going on. And I introduced her to the accessibility shortcuts feature. So for all of the apps, just like grouping them in a folder, which is pretty basic, but also changing the feature of the double tap and the motion sensitivity, because she had pretty shaky hands and she wasn't really sure with how hard she can press or the long of a press. So explaining and like talking her through what changes that she could make, as well as making a change to have Siri come with a single tap, was what I used for her. Now, that was one session where I just told her, like, tap around, download apps as you want to, change them, use folders, and use Siri if you have a question. If you don't know where to go and you don't want to Google it or search it, ask Siri. Really quick and easy. And that was the one time I used it with this organization. I will say over the holidays, my parents and aunts and uncles had a lot of questions. So from a non-client perspective, I used it just to kind of help them, especially with Reader, because they do not like reading the articles that I send or the recipes that I send them. So using Reader has been a function that I've used in my personal life.
I have a question.
Yes.
Hi, quick question. How about the updates on the Apple phones? Like, I'm looking at something that says iOS 15.1 now available, and should I be downloading that? I'm afraid sometimes they say they're not always a good idea. What would you suggest? Download it?
Absolutely. So that's a great question, especially because we saw in our age and time a lot of updates that would break or have holes in them from a security perspective. It's really important when you're downloading them to look at what download features they're updating, especially when it comes to security. The rule of thumb from like a Microsoft perspective, like at work, is if there's a feature or if there's an update, do it as soon as possible, because most of the updates are to, especially from a 0.2 and on, are probably around security and holes. So that 5.1, I would definitely, or 15.1, exercise some caution, but look at the features and what they're updating, what's happening, and then also look at the security. Make sure that they're mentioning specifically how they're talking about security, what that looks like, especially because privacy is so important in technology. And it's like, if you're new to the world of technology and you want to just make sure it's covering it. And I believe with 15, they offered quite a lot of security features. So I personally felt very comfortable downloading it immediately. Just give a quick browse if that is something you want. And a lot of the features here will look the same way. Definitely upload it and see if you can get 15.3, because I think that's the most up-to-date one. And you always want to have that latest patch.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Great question.
Yeah.
Good questions. So my first one is, sometimes I've had people in my family say Siri talks to me when I don't want it to. How do I make it stop talking.
I feel that. She's always listening. That's, I think, the biggest problem there. I don't know necessarily how to make her stop talking. She stopped listening to me quite a while ago. It could be looking at some of these features to say, how can we make Siri's trigger more intentional instead of just whatever she's just listening. I'll look into that. I'll write a note. I'm gonna write a note about following up about Samsung, the iOS, and how to get Siri to stop.
My other question was sometimes people put nail extensions on. I don't do it myself, but I've seen people be frustrated with the phone screen and they'll tap on it and nothing will respond. And the only thing I can think of to tell them to do is completely remove the extensions, but I don't know if that's hard to do. And I don't know if there's a way around that with the phone.
I'm curious, are they using their extension to actually poke or are they using their finger pad?
They're trying to use their finger pad, but the extension's so long that I don't know, they can't.
It
I
takes
don't know.
time. Yeah. I got extensions during the pandemic because I was very into nails, and it took a lot of time for me to just get more familiar with using it. In the case of that, I am curious if it's something with the actual touchability or if how hard they're pressing needs to change, because I think the pressure point of your actual top fingertip is a little different than, I don't know. I'm trying to think of the mechanics behind it, but I haven't touched that stuff in many moons. I would encourage practice in that case.
I would say, yeah, that they just need to practice using their nails because usually the tip of your fingers should work.
Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, I also just wanted to mention something that Caitlin, she's having network issues, so I believe she can't really speak, but she just wanted to share that she has a grandma who is almost entirely blind, and that the accessibility features for her don't really work as she's not really able to see large text. Other than coaching on how to use Siri, she's also really enjoyed smart speakers. So, and she also mentioned that the Library Congress also has a really great audiobook service that we should encourage our clients to look into. So, thank you, Caitlin.
I love the sharing of different options and what does and
Sure.
doesn't work.
Definitely.
And I just wanted to mention regarding Siri, since I still had the accessibility page open, you can set accessibility. It looks like you can set accessibility sensitivity for some apps. I guess it depends on what version you have. So in Siri, it does give you some options that maybe like Miranda, like Miranda was saying, you can play around with the sensitivity. Like you can give it the command to say that it has to listen for "Hey Siri" before it'll respond. Or it says, I even see there's an option that says is it always on, or can you change it? So maybe just playing around with that stuff and actually testing it to see if it works. Because just because it says, oh, well, if you do this, it might not be 100%, but maybe just playing around with that stuff. But just wanted to mention that.
Thank you, Michelle. No, that's awesome. Maybe mine's turned off. That's why she's not listening.
Yeah, I'm actually looking at one of our iPads here, and I'm looking through the Siri option, and it automatically has listen for "Hey Siri" if that's off. So just maybe that could be an option or something that's
the default. I think the default, because even looking at, the default on mine is always on. But I have disabled Siri, so because I don't want anybody talking to me, so I disabled it. But if I did enable it, it would just listen constantly because that's just how it's set up. But all right, I know we've got almost 5 minutes or so. Any additional questions? We can pick Miranda's brain while it's still piping hot and fresh.
You can also, after we send out this material, if there's questions or things that, come up, if there's things that work for you, I would love to hear them. I would love to create like this sharing of like exactly the Siri and search feature that Michelle brought up of, hey, I was looking at this, I saw this, and this actually really helped. I think kind of sharing these wins and what uses we can find for some of these tools would actually help a ton. And yeah, this is just the beginning. Send me any questions you have, send me any wins you have, anything that with other devices that have sparked your interest. I'm always happy to chat. Yeah.
Yeah, and I would say maybe even like some things where like Caitlin mentioned, where certain accessibility options weren't even working for, just so that we could figure out other methods around it, or see if there's a way that we could figure it out, But I'll still leave the floor open for any questions, if anything. Yeah. Right. I mean, if there's no questions, if anything, we'll be sending out a post-workshop little questionnaire. It's just like 4 questions. And if you could please fill it out, that'll be great. And especially if Miranda would like to do any more presentations for us, we can go off of that feedback and tailor it for the future. So yeah. No more questions. Okay. Well, if anything, we'll be sending an email out to everyone with, all the resources, all the necessary links, everything, and even the recorded session here today. Yeah, so if no one else has anything else to say, I would like to say thank you so much for everyone for participating. And hopefully you've learned something, as I know I've learned a lot, as I am not an Apple person, but it's going to be great to, interact with clients now, knowing that these features are available. And I'm actually like way more confident now knowing this moving forward. So, and I hope most of you or all of you are feeling the same way as well. So I just wanted to thank Miranda once again for dedicating her time for doing this presentation. It was wonderful. Yeah. And Michelle, I don't know if you wanted to say anything else, or Miranda, if you want to have any closing words.
I wanted to thank you, Miranda. Oh, I'm trying to give you a round of applause, but this camera's throwing me off. But awesome. Thank you for all of your insight and for all this useful info. We're going to be picking your brain more.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, no, I'm thankful for all of you for coming, asking questions, opening up this space, and I'm just super excited about accessibility, and I'm excited to share that excitement. And yeah, create a cross communication culture of just wins, collective wins. Yeah, thank you all for your time, and please fill out the post survey with any feedback. That will be really useful.
For sure. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
All right, everyone. So I guess I'm going to close off the session, but thank you once again for participating, and thank you once again, Miranda. Yeah, and everyone have a great day and have a great weekend.
Yes.
All right.
Have a good one, everybody.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right. Bye, everyone. Bye.